Good morning, good sir.
Good morning. How are we?
I am okay. I was running late today. Can you forgive me?
Of course I can.
So great segue. So guys, I was a little bit late this morning because I have an injured shoulder, but it's just an old injury that's going to plague me probably for the rest of my days. But today's theme is embracing forgiveness. So Rick and I were discussing just a bit before we came on. The Hutch is here. Hi, Hutch. I owe you a return PM. So I will fill you in on what's been going on over in our neck of the woods. But Rick and I were just discussing. First of all, forgiving me for being late. I texted him just a short while ago and said, "I'm running late. I'm having trouble making my arm move." But we kind of extended that to forgiving ourselves and forgiving our younger selves. So, Rick, what is the most difficult part of forgiveness for you and your clients? What do you think becomes the big sticking point with that? Because it's always hard to let go of past hurts or things that people have, or things that we perceived people have done to us. What's the sticky point that you see most often?
I mean, for me, it's the frustration, it's the feelings, it's the needing to return to something to get an answer, and then pointing out to people that if you've not got it by now, then your answer, unfortunately, is you're not going to get the answer that you want. So it's knowing when to actually draw a line with it. So I've spent a lot of time this weekend talking to lots of different hurt people, and spoke about the word of acceptance in regards to that. And this is key to understanding this point. Is not saying that what you've been through is okay. It's not even agreeing with it or allowing it or being angry or resentful. It's just accepting sometimes that was part of our growing up, our growing out, our embracing our future selves. But keep going back, and I call it post-morteming, that you're going back after the event has happened, looking for something that even if you found it, still wouldn't make any difference because the event has gone. So it's coming to a place of acceptance where you can go, right, okay, I didn't agree with it. I didn't like it. It's left an unpleasant feeling. But then what do I do? What do I do with it next? And what I found with a lot of people is that until they've reached that point, they keep on rehashing it. And every time you rehash it and it's like putting fuel to the fire again, you're actually paying for something more than once. And I'm an active pain avoider. So what I've started to realize now is some of the things that have hurt me, and I mean genuinely hurt me, right? Okay, they did, and I'm not gonna forget that. But I need to forgive myself for all the energy that I've put into looking for an answer. Because when all's said and done, all of the things that have hurt me have still contributed to the person that I am now. So I can see things from slightly different perspectives. I'm not saying it's okay what's happened, because it's far from it. But how long do you keep using your valuable life hours to keep going over something that even if you find that answer, it's not gonna benefit you in any way? So it's just about structuring people to say that when you do go back into these moments, you're actually dealing with it. If you can get into your mind that you're going back with the adult mentality, and not the child or the younger version of you that was in that hurt moment, you can actually go back to your younger self in hypnosis, meditation, whichever one that you prefer to do, or sitting in your own power, as I tend to call it, and just go and find your younger self and give them a hug. Just pick them up. Tell them that you understand that what they're going through is valid. That, if you've been abandoned, or you've been through abuse, or you've been through trauma, or you've been left behind in any sort of way whatsoever, just go in there and go, right, I understand because I went through it. But what I'm not going to do anymore is keep coming back to you. So you're coming with me. So you embrace the energy and pull it into your inner being. You make sure that wherever you've kept yourself captured for all of these years is cleaned up, and you take anything that's there with you and move yourself into your present moment. Design yourself a safe space when you do this, somewhere that if it does become too traumatic for it, you can automatically pull yourself out of it. So mine personally is a bench, and I design a bench with a garden that's sat around it, that if I'm going into that dark spaces from the past and I'm dealing with any hurt or upset, that if it gets too overwhelming, I can come out and I can go into my safe space. Once I'm in my safe space, I can then decide whether I want to go back into the fray or whether I want to come out of it and live to fight another day type of thing. It's for those of us, and I include myself in this still, that finds all of this quite mesmerizing, this spiritual work. I find it quite a difficult thing to actually do, but it's one of those things. It's like with maintenance, with anything, it's practice and practice and practice, because you have to ask yourself, how long do I want to hurt for? How long do I want to keep going back into this situation and finding no answers? So you've got to want a solution more than you want the problem. So that's what I do with people, is that I get them, I basically, because I'm an ex-prison officer, I get them to go back to wherever they've imprisoned themselves and give them the keys. And once you can start embracing your younger self and saying, look, I'm not dismissing you, but there is a time frame with all of this, and now we need to move on. So that's how I do it anyway. I mean, everybody to their own. Everybody to their own.
Yeah, and I love the way you look at it as post-morteming, because I have a very similar view, and I'm probably going to adopt your phrasing, but I will always give you credit for it. I think, like, for example, like as a lot of young people now get ghosted by people that they're dating. And I think that creates, I mean, not that it's been invented in the last 20 years or so, but I think it's created this situation where there's so many questions around the relationship. I mean, when you and I were coming up, like, you had to actually break up with somebody. You couldn't just not answer their text messages anymore. And that leaves now this modern phenomenon of ghosting. It leaves all of these question marks, and it gets worse because you're visiting the ghost of that relationship on their Instagram stories, on their reels, on their shorts, maybe on YouTube. You're actually still seeing them, and then you're kind of building the story around it. So, like, people become relationship psychics like us, and they go, oh, well, trying to figure out where they are. And I heard a woman's voice in the background, and I think he was with somebody else. And I don't know. I think that was the day I broke up with him. And there's a lot of energy that gets put into that. And it's almost trying to revive the ghost. So I think if they're paying attention to it, they're like still performing compressions on that relationship. They're still trying to bring it back. There's still a chance. They still could gasp and come back. So I think that embracing forgiveness is all part of this mourning process. And it can be with a dead relationship, or it can be with a Grumpy has a question. It can be with a circumstance, none of our parents did the right thing. I'm not a perfect parent. I've made mistakes with my kids. And I have to forgive myself for certain things that I have done in my life. I have to forgive myself for certain ways of parenting with my two kids. I mean, especially when I was a single mom, because I basically had to go back to work, and they were basically raised by babysitters. I was very fortunate. I had awesome babysitters that took care of my kids. But, I regret that I missed out on some of that time. My kids had a great childhood, and they both say, but, I still regret that I missed out on some of that time. And I have to forgive that younger mother that was, because I was doing the right thing. It wasn't like I was absent because I was dating people or going out drinking or anything like that. I was working in insurance. It's the opposite of fun. But the antidote to fun. So, we have to go through this process of forgiveness. So, now for you, you go through a meditative process and like do you go to a physical bench, like you have a bench in your garden, or is that like a visualized bench?
Oh, so to give people, and this is what I mean, I sat there all weekend, right? Sat there absolutely amazed at this show that I've just been in. That I've sat there and I've been people have just flocked to me. It's the strangest experience when you just consider yourself a normal everyday guy. So with my training, when I started to do all of this spiritual stuff, I mean, every day is a school day, and I'm like, oh, you want to do meditation? So in my mind, this is what this conjures up: sitting there cross-legged in a field full of grass, going and right, that's just not me. And then I started to examine why that was the case. Well, during my prison service, I was diagnosed with PTSD. So the thought of going into a darkened room and sitting there and then switching your mind off, which is something I've never successfully done, I've had to make up processes that I can actually cope with. So it's short, sharp bursts. So no, I don't literally go to a bench. I sit there, and with my hypnosis training, I just found that for me, when I had to have my own hypnosis as part of my training, that I kept going into these dark spots where I'd get my big boy pants on, and we'd go and get the battle suit on and get ready to face whatever's coming at us. And I found it overwhelming. It was emotions that I believed I'd buried. So what I did was I got into my own mind there of designing a place where if I put a bench there and I put everything around me that I knew that I liked. So for me, where my bench is usually located is in Cornwall. There's a particular mountaintop or cliff top where you go to, that if you get up there on your own and then you're looking out on miles and miles of sea and sort of nature-made caves and things like that. Well, in my mind, I visualize that I'm sat on that bench. I also invite, being a spiritual person, I might invite somebody in that's made a significant impact on my past. And I use it like a reward system, that I'm going to go up there first. And as I go through the light part, I will invite that person in and have a few minutes with them and see if they've got any messages for me. And then I will say, right, I need to go because I've got work to do. Then as I take myself off from that safe space, the pathway might start getting narrower. It might start getting a bit darker. It might start, it's, for me, it's like that claustrophobic feeling of going in. It's that sort of foreboding type of thing. But the thing is with it is never to be frightened of it, because you're not coming up against anything that you don't know. If for anything, you're actually at an advantage, because as you go backwards, you're going back with all of the knowledge that you've gained since the event. So anything that comes at you from your deep from your subconscious, you've already dealt with in whatever way, whether you feel like you failed at it, whether you feel like you succeeded at it. The fact that you're still going back says to me that there's little bits there that like it's residual for me, little bits there that it's like tying off the loose ends. So as you go back, it depends on how strong you're feeling that day. But not to be deterred, but it's a fail-safe for me, that if it gets too much for me, if there's too much going on for me in the present moment, I've always got that lovely space to run back to. Most of the time now, because I've realised about the concept of having to go, being drawn back, I've obviously not done my cleaning up when I've been in the last time, because that's the test for your journey as you go in. If you've come up against this subject more than once, you've not cleaned up properly before you leave. So I look now whether it's necessary to go back, whether there's been a trigger there that's put me in the place in the present where I've sort of, there's something from the past that's drawn me out again. And then I just keep going forward. And then when you get to wherever it is, and design your own building as well. This is the good thing, because when you go there, I always get people to design themselves a set of keys, right? And these keys are magic. So you design yourself a set of keys that you've got a guide with you, so you're always going to be perfectly safe, because your guide is your inner self, that sees more than you do. But we all have this imaginative mind that where we've got to for some reason go through these storylines, these story arcs, and see where we're going. So you're the keeper of the keys. So you can put your fluffy dice on them, you can put your fluffy whatever on them and design them. But these keys are magic because they can open any locks whatsoever. And the point about opening any locks whatsoever is, yes, they will work first time and every time. And how I know this for a fact that they will open any lock is because you've designed them. Because you've also designed the locks that keep everything behind those closed doors. So when you go to your first building or your first room where you're locked in, imagine being outside, and on the outside there is a room number. For me, I imagine it like, so the bulk of my problems with anxiety and depression started when I was about 16, roughly around that age. And they were more intense than the normal sort of teenage hormonal stuff. There was a lot of trauma going on there in my mind. So if I walked up to door number 16, I'm going to look in door number 16 to make sure that I'm safe. So I open the door, I have a look there, and what is in there is that younger version of me at 16 years of age. They're on the floor, they're in an emotional state, they're upset, they're angry, they're frustrated, they're probably throwing things around a little bit. I don't know, because I was a bit of a tantrum thrower when I was younger. And what you're looking for is to sort of point people in the direction of saying, right, as a person, forget about anything that I'm talking about, as a person, what would you do with somebody if they was in a place of distress? And everybody I've ever done this exercise with does the same thing. Well, I'd sit with them and see if they're all right. Okay. And what else would you do? Well, I'd offer them a tissue if they're crying. Right. Okay. Keep going. Right. I'd maybe put, cup of tea. I'd maybe put my arm around them. Right. That is what you would do normally. You've just told me that. Right. So that person there is a person in distress. That's a person there that needs support. That's a person there that needs upliftment. So what are you going to do? So they go through all of those processes. I says, me these days, I'd learn to give somebody a hug. Right? Because it's me, I know that what that younger version of me basically needed. Right. Stop getting all upset. Stop getting up. Right. Come here. Right. You're okay. Just basic parenting skills of just getting somebody so they're in a place where they're calming their energy down. So you give them a hug, right? You stand there, you're sending out that healing vibration, because that is what you've been on your journey for. You get them into that space where you embrace them and bring them into your energies. But you say to them, right, that's it. I'm not coming back here, and you're not being trapped here anymore, because I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you forward to a place where all of this is now in the background. We've dealt with it because you wanted attention. I've given you attention. I've given you love. I've given you support. I've given you guidance. And I am you. So come with me. You walk out of the place that you've been imprisoned in. You have a good look round. And I always put in, when I'm doing this hypnosis journey, I always put cleaning materials in the corner. So because it's an intense situation, I'll say, right, you need to clean up your mucky bugger before you leave this place. And I'm a bit of a stickler for cleanliness. So clean it all up. Then as you're drawing them out of the room, you ask, what can you see in that room? If they've done the process thoroughly, the answer will be nothing. There won't be anything in that room whatsoever. So you close the door, and you come away and you make the reverse journey. But on your reverse journey, you will find that the darker path that you went down is that little bit more lighter. So you're in that sort of congratulatory state of mind that you've done some work there, and your reward is going and sitting on the bench before you come back. And I always find that for me, sometimes it's about gathering yourself, because if you've gone into the deepest, darkest recesses of your mind, there can be some stuff in there, skeletons, things there that you've buried. Well, you've just won a big victory by going in and facing that. Because I always say to people, deal with the thing that is bugging you the most, because that's the one that you're putting your most of your life's hours energy into. If you're not up to strength that day, go and deal with something smaller. But always look at how much energy that you're putting into something about thinking about the past. When you sat there and you gather yourself and you sat in your safe space, and say, for me, the crashing of the waves and being there with these particular people always calms me down. And then, like with everything, it's back to reality. So you gradually bring yourself out of that and you go back on with your day. Key, and we're talking about sort of forgiveness and your own welfare then, is to hydrate properly. And people kind of take this for granted. And the reason that I say hydrate properly is because I believe in the bodily system. That if you've disturbed any energy in your energy chakras or anything like that, you'll have like broken bits off. Sorry about this. There's be somebody coming in. So when that's floating around the system, if it's stale energy, it's still going to be in your system. It's not as effective as it was, but it still needs flushing. So you need to flush plenty so that you go to the toilet, pass what you need to pass, and you're having a good clear out, because if it's just sort of even little darker spots in there, it's still going to have an effect on you. So I flush it all through. Sometimes you just need to sit and take the few minutes and just realize, right, I don't need to go back. I don't need to keep rehashing that. I don't need to keep re-experiencing that trauma. It's not a cure, because no therapy is a cure unless you agree to it. Because I've sat there and I've been through various therapists and counselors and things like that, and they've told me things, and I've got that feel-good factor as I come out of these sessions, and then I'm back in my reality. So this is why I always say to people, if for any reason this process then takes you backwards again, you've not cleaned up properly. Well, if you go back into that room, the brushes will still be there, so you need to clean it to your satisfaction. And as long as you can keep walking out of that room where it's empty, there's no need to go back. So the mind has this place of the subconscious records everything as fact without reference. So sometimes we have to do the reprogramming. I see it like a video player, and this is showing my age now, that you could literally pull out the tape. The little tape would be running by. So you snap the tape and throw that away, because we need new programming. And whatever today's modern devices, we record again and say, right, that program is now defunct. It's had a defragged, it's cleaned. My memories, the important thing about your memories is not to keep remembering all of the bad stuff. It's to cut through the cable, the cord of that attachment. So by breaking the video or breaking that chain of command, defragging, whatever you want to know it as, you affected a change. You shouldn't have to do it with each individual thing more than once. If you've done it correctly, you won't, the attachment will not be there to the memory. You may still get the memory, but not as intense. Does that come across okay? Because I'm just like,
no, it does make sense, because I think with forgiveness, sometimes we do have to chip away at the stone. Sometimes we have to go back in and we have to do that meditation and see ourselves walking away from the situation or walking away from that person. I mean, I recently forgave myself for not leaving my corporate job sooner. I always say, if I left a year earlier, maybe I would have been in a different position. Maybe I would have picked up a different corporate job. Maybe I would have, finished my book a lot faster. There's a lot of that I kind of put into it, because everyone's lives got much, much busier once the pandemic and the lockdown was over, and that was my thing. Like maybe I should have resigned during the pandemic and got to work a lot faster while I was sitting home, and while everyone else, I didn't have to drive anyone anywhere. So, you have to say, I did the best with the tools that I had at that moment. And I think, the phenomenon for us as humans is that we do want to, because, situations are very binary for all of us. We either want someone to be right or wrong. We either want to be, correct or not correct. And so when you have an interpersonal relationship that requires some kind of forgiveness, you either want that person to say, I did you dirty, I did you wrong, and I'm sorry. And then you can go and heal. Well, sometimes we don't get that luxury. Sometimes, like a situation, maybe the other person has passed on and we're never going to get that. Or maybe they've ghosted us and they are a figurative ghost and we're never going to get that from them. So where does the responsibility lie? If the other party did us wrong, it is what it is. Sometimes people are terrible, but we can't burden ourselves with that. We can't walk with that. When I do my tarot readings in my Celtic Cross, there's one portion of the spread that I say, this is the suitcase card. And what we need to do is we either need to go back in time and we bring our suitcase with us, and we're either going to unpack it and take some things out that we don't need, or we're going to pack it with some things that we need from the past. So I was incredibly brave when I was a child, when I was younger. So a lot of the time when I do spreads like that, I have to go back in time and pack my chutzpah and the the brass balls that I had. I have to pack those in there. But sometimes we have to go back and we have to unpack that person that we're like, how come they did that to me? How come how could they do that to me? Why did they do that to me? Sometimes we have to go back in time and we have to unpack that. And it can be a romantic relationship, a friendship relationship, a relationship with a job. It could be a relationship with someone in our family. Those people are a little bit harder to get away from, but you can forgive the situation and then just act differently. If you go through the process of forgiving yourself and forgiving that person, then you can actually kind of become a new person. You can use that tool. You won't repeat the same mistakes. You won't set up the same power dynamics or power dynamics in a conversation. You'll be able to avoid that. This is how we grow. If we don't forgive, we don't grow at all. We don't become different in our world. So, and that doesn't elevate us spiritually at all. So, just, being a sad sack and kind of ruminating and rubbing your hands together going, why was I treated like that? And we all have those moments. It may be with the shop girl at the grocery store. It may be with a past boss. We all have those moments, but you can move forward. You can move beyond them. What I like to do is I like to do the same kind of meditation that you do. I have this beautiful Italian villa that's up on a hill that I wind up at, hoping heaven is a lot like that because the view is great. Um, but I can go there, and that is a safe space for me to kind of dump things out. And I tell my clients, you have to dump out your cup. So sometimes you have to do your meditation. You have to fill the cup with all of that bad emotion or muddled emotion. We can put it that way because no emotions are really bad. And at the end of the day, you have to dump that cup out. So get yourself calm, get yourself mellow, fill up the cup, dump it out. I think that is an easy and great way to do that. Again, having a safe space. I also have a physical safe space. That's why I asked you about that. We have when we moved in, we had this one couch and it just fit perfectly right next to our fireplace. It's where I've been doing the last couple of weeks up there. And our dog Bruno, he kind of claimed the couch for his own. It was supposed to be a reading spot for me. So after Bruno passed away, I tried to read there again, and I can't read there because the minute I get there, I just go into this relaxed state of just pleasant bliss, and I either drift off into a nap or I wind up meditating. Whatever moment of the day it is. Sometimes you just pass out. I will be going back up there and probably taking a little bit more of a snooze this morning after we're done. But that is a space for me that I can get some work done. It's cozy, it's comfortable. I'm not sitting upright. The one thing I hate is when you go to some of these conventions and workshops and they're like, okay, here's your steel chair, meditate. Like, really? Like, I need a beanbag. I'm not doing it in a steel chair. I'm sorry. It's just sitting up is not my thing for meditating. I don't love it. So I do think, some other things for your spiritual toolkit for this. If somebody really did you wrong, if it was a situation that really did not serve you well and you came out of it kind of battered and broken, write it down. Write it down and say it out loud. I tell a lot of my students to do, when we're talking about manifestation, writing down is great. You can have manifestation journal, but if you speak those words into the world, they're that much more powerful, because you really, not only do you speak them into the universe, but you take ownership of them when you speak them, and it will send it out over the universe to that person. So you actually do get to say what you wanted to say to them. So yeah. that was a weird ending. I thought you were going to say something. I was like,
I was, but I realised that I picked the wrong pause. Just adding to that, my friend on here that's been a great source of inspiration to me, Mr. Timothy. You'll see that on some of my older stuff, I mention him quite a lot. Very much a thinking man, an online author, and before he got his latest business, we used to spend a lot of time sort of debating things that were going on. I don't consider myself a learned person. I don't consider myself a brilliantly intelligent person, but he is. But everybody's got that sort of, if you can bounce off one another, I think that's what makes conversations interesting. I see it from quite a base rate, and he will have a more of a, I don't know, an intelligent overview. That's just my opinion. It's not pulling myself down. But one of the things that he said one day that for me has partly changed my life, and it's, you can't change your life unless you're willing to challenge your own ideas and your own ideals and things like that. And he spoke about life's hours. And I said, right, okay. He said, well, if you think about it, he said, none of us really and truly know how long that we've got on this life planet, on this planet. So your life's hours are what you're apportioned before you even get here. And as soon as you arrive out of the womb, or wherever it is that we gestate from, then you come out with the clock starting to tick down. So your life's hours are always ticking down. So you should think of it like this: when you're dealing with something that is non-productive, yet you're still investing in it, if you got to the point of wherever it is that we end up, whether it's heaven or hell or whatever it is, God's waiting room, whatever you want to come out, my belief is that you do like a review. You look through and see where you've spent your life's hours, whether you need to do more work or whether you're going to evolve and move on. So he says, so think about your life's hours that, like money, that you're basically paying for something with your life's hours. So it's an investment. And I went, right, yeah, I'm so following you so far. He said, well, if you think about when you invest in something, what do you want? And I went, well, something coming back, something positive coming back. If it's literally money, you want more money coming back from it. So he said, right, so think about your thoughts now about what you're investing in. So you do the review about the traumatic situation, and you invest, let's say, half an hour in going back over what you've been through, why you're traumatized. You go into that low mood space because you're reviewing all of the situation as you remember it, because it's not factual, because it's as you remember it. It's a collection of thoughts that you've agreed to remember. So you'll go flat space. You'll get disappointed. You'll get that. So your return from that half an hour is, sometimes it's anger, depression, sadness, whatever you want to call it. Right now, when you've got that in place, what is your return? Sadness, depression, anger, frustration. Right. Is that going to benefit you in any way, shape or form? No. So it's a bad investment. I went, right, okay, so I'm following that. So how do I counterbalance that? He said, well, ask somebody, how are you today? So somebody says, and this is where I added my little bit. This is where my creative mind started to stew with this story. Right. So sit with somebody, ask how you are. Well, I'm depressed. Right. Sell depressed to me. Well, what do you mean? Sell depressed to me. If you can sell depression to me as something productive, right, that I can use, I will buy it off you financially. We'll agree a price and I'll take it off you. But as a businessman, I need to put down if there's any sort of quirks or anything in the contract before I buy it. So my terms and conditions are that it must be productive. It must give me something that I can use it for that will benefit me later on down the line. Right, go, sell it to me. So people sit there and they go, well, it's it's not very nice. Well, you're not doing a very good job at selling it so far, but I'm going to give you a bit more time because I can be a bit gullible. So sell it a bit better. Well, I said, is it a nice feeling? Well, no. Well, would you advocate that I take it? But no, I won't want anybody feeling like that. Right. I said, okay, so unfortunately, you haven't managed to sell it to me. But how about if you give it to me? Oh, well, I won't want to do that. Right. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Well, because it's a horrible feeling. It keeps me quite low down and I get quite anxious and I get quite upset. And it's just this thing. So my clients, I don't have a regular client list. So I said, right, this is where I need to sort of unscramble this in my brain. Right. So, and this is where you can start. It's not trickery, but once you get them on the hook with this process. Right. So let me just rewind this a little bit. So you can't sell depression, anxiety, or negative feelings to me because you wouldn't want me feeling like you. Is that correct? Yes. Right. Okay. I've got that in my head. I've got that process down. You wouldn't give it to me because you wouldn't want another human being having to go through that existence. Have I got that right? Yes, correct. Right. How old are you? So they tell me. I says, and I'll look at the clock and I'll make a real point of looking at the clock while I'm sat with them. Pick the clock up and go, right. So you're, let's say, for instance, let's knock a couple of years off our ages, Annabelle. There, we're 50. Right. So for 50 years, you have been on this planet and learned everything that you've learned up to this point. And I've gone through this stage. I says, and you have known me for 12 minutes, 15 minutes. And yet you're prepared to take the negative feeling off me. You're prepared to prevent me from experiencing depression, anxiety, and bad feelings. Am I correct in that? Well, yes, I suppose if you put it like that. Right. So if you've been on this planet 50 years, why don't you respect yourself enough to get rid of that shite that you wouldn't give me for free? I was like, oh, right. So everything that you invest in thoughts-wise needs, and I've said this over the course of these 6 things that we've done, either needs better feeling or a lesson, or going in my now famous, because it was out at the weekend in force, the famous ethic bucket. Because if you can't do anything productive with it, you can't give it away, you can't sell it, it's a waste product. You wouldn't go in a hotel, criticize it on TripAdvisor and say how shit the food was and the environment and all of the rest of it, and then book to go on exactly the same holiday next year. It just makes common sense. And what I've been finding just recently is that everybody's going, yeah, I get it, right. Well, when you get it, keep acting on it, because that is the source of, like, going back for this forgiveness type of thing. You don't need to forgive yourself. You just need to look at what your investment was, what your life's hours was. You hit the nail on the head there so accurately, that we do things with the knowledge that we've got at the time. And we do the best that we can. Nobody, and I don't care who you are, what your reputation is, what you're good at, has got it 100% right 100% of the time. So you're learning your lessons. The negative feelings are like a byproduct of what you're manufacturing for your life. So I every time I think of anything, if I'm going to go back into this sort of expansive thought state, is what is it that I'm going back for? Because if it's taking me like I'm in that trauma state, and there has been bits of trauma in my life, I'm going, what do I need to keep experiencing that for? Is it a good investment? Will I get something positive? Will I teach anybody anything from this? And that's all I can put it down to now. When I'm in that space where something is really traumatic and that memory's being relit or rehashed, is because something in this now moment that I don't want to deal with has triggered me. Oh, well, that's how I tend to do it. That's just my luck. That's what's always happened to me. The brain goes, okay, and then presses play on anything that's remarkably similar or somewhere around the right lines, and then presses the play on all of your shitty things that you've been through in your life. And you sat there going, oh, this is good. I know how this ends. Yeah. I'll sit here and I'll spend another 2 hours watching it, and I already know what the end part is. And then you get to the end and go, that was rubbish. Yeah, it was, because you did it. You come through it. Why go back and watch it again? So for me, it's about the investment in the lifestyle. So it's one of these things that's always stuck with me. When somebody wants to drag me into that well of despair, some people will call it a pity party, whatever it is, I'm going to ask, why do I need to go? Am I going to learn anything new by going to this party and being around people that have got that sort of energy about them? Chances are no. Right, well, I politely decline your invite, because if there's nothing good for me there, I'm sorry. I'm kind of like this evolutionary phase. I want to move on, learn, and dump my crap by the side of the road. And the thing is with me, I always make a point of saying that one of the things that frustrated me during my own therapy was put the past behind you. Well, as I'm discovering that I've got this ADHD brain about me, I take everything literally. So I want you to imagine this, right? So somebody says to you, put the past behind you. What is your natural thing if you're triggered by something that's happened in the past? So you're looking backwards. Well, your life is always in progress and moving forward. So you can imagine the damage you can cause yourself if you're constantly looking over your shoulder, and you'll be bumping into things. Yeah. So when it comes to putting the past behind you, do not do that, right? This is a command word. Do not do that. Unpack your suitcase wherever you need to do it in this now moment, right? Along, wherever you're stood, wherever you feel comfortable, unpack it all there. Ask Mother Earth, the God, the guide, whatever it is that you use to put it into Mother Earth. And it's Mother Earth is the laundry. She cleans all of that energy and then sends it back to you laundered. Now you can accept that clean energy. So for me, I always look at investment in my time and my life's hours. There are going to be people out there that it is their role in life to antagonize you. Right, it's going to be their role in life to show you the darker sides of your psyche, and this is the journey I'm on at the moment. I am finding this extremely difficult because I can be quite volatile with people if I think that they're pushing my buttons. I've got to the stage in life now, hopefully, where I'm calming down a bit. But I will say to people, let's go down this route. I don't want to deal with any of this. Stop pushing my buttons. Why? What are you going to do? Right? Let's not even discuss that. I'm telling you, I don't want to go there. But if you're going to go there, well, there's going to be consequences. So when I look at that investment, I know that if I'm going to go into any stage of conflict with anybody, that is going to be painful to me personally, because I do not like conflict. I do not like argument. Because again, it's a wasted investment, because somebody in any conflict, like you were saying earlier, somebody's got to be right, somebody's got to be wrong. Well, in there, you're going to have a winner and a loser. So I'd rather just not be involved in any of it. Right, have the victory. If that makes you feel better, have the victory. I'm wrong.
I think Anna Perkins has some interesting things to say for a Ferengi. She says, people box up the negatives in their life and chuck the box away. It's hard to get people to do that. And I think that is because they want to relive the experience, and they think by going back through that gauntlet, they're going to get back to the good parts of that relationship or that experience. So, I think looking forward, like what you just said, you're going to be bumping into stuff if you're looking backwards. Anna Perkins, I love the Ferengi rules of acquisition. I would give those to all my salespeople that I worked with. They're awesome. But I think if we don't start to unload some of that stuff, we get bogged down and we get stuck in the past. We get stuck in the emotions of the past. Freeing yourself from that, I think, is really the beginning to spiritual wholeness, which will translate into physical wholeness. So, Louise Hay always has said, whatever emotions you're having, whatever words you're having, they're going to set the pace for what happens in your body. I know she tied resentment to cancers and things like that. But even like my shoulder, but apparently I'm having trouble reaching out and grabbing things that I want. That's why my shoulder is killing me right now. Which, by the way, I'm probably going to ask that we cut this at an hour because I'm starting to sweat because I'm in so much pain. I thought I was okay, but I'm literally starting to sweat. I'm going to have to put some ice on this or something. But I think there's no easy fix for forgiveness. I don't think that we go and we meditate for 7 days and it goes away. I think it's stages, just like grief. I think we have to go through those stages where we detach from it, and then all of a sudden, tra la la, we're riding down the road on our bike and something reminds us and we're back there. I think we have to really just kind of ease our way out of it. We don't jump into any kind of relationship, even though like you could, crash your bicycle into someone and you meet them and then it turns into a terrible relationship. You ease into that relationship, and we have to ease ourselves out of it as well. It doesn't make any sense. You don't jump in the pool and then jump out of the pool. You ease yourself into the pool, ease yourself out, climb up the ladder. So I think getting into the, and I think forgiveness is a much larger topic that we should continue discussing in this forum. I think there are different techniques that require, a dedicated, hour or so to understanding. I think meditation is the first place. I think, getting rid of that binary thinking of right and wrong. Well, they were right and they were wrong and I was right and they owe me an apology. You're not going to get the apologies that we need. We never got an apology from, our governments or from our parents. Like we're not getting the apologies that we need all the time. So we have to unload that ourselves. We have to do the apologizing for the people that just aren't bold or big enough to do that. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, the thing that I am struggling with myself at the moment, it came in from Spirit, and I take Spirit at the word. It's not my personal opinion. It's what they brought into me, is to thank all teachers. And I had to ask the question, what does that actually mean? Thank all teachers. Because I was thinking back to my school days. I was the awkward one. I'd be the class clown. I'd cause trouble. I was the gossip. I was the noise. Drew attention to myself for all of the wrong reasons. So I thought, well, I've got no teachers to thank. And no, it went deeper than that. So when we experience experiences throughout our life, that is part of our blueprint that I believe personally that we create before we even arrive on this earth plane to live the life that we've agreed to live. Okay, we go through some pretty dark experiences at times, but what we tend to find, and just picking up very briefly on your career, you didn't move at the time you moved because look what's happened now with right and divine timing. You've got to where you are now, and that's giving you that flexibility. You're now in a better place than what you would have been if you'd have got what you needed at that time. So for me, even dark experiences have helped me get to this point where I can now sit in front of you on a Monday morning and talk with no pressure about what I'm going for the rest of the day. And that's where what I focus on at this moment is here in this moment. So some of the darker stuff and the more difficult stuff has helped me no end as a therapist and as a reader to understand and empathize better than if I'd have just sat there and said, oh, I'm a trained tarot reader. I'm a trained counselor. I learnt it all from a book, darling. And what page 74 says is like, well, no, I've lived through it. I know how gut-wrenching the darkness can be. But when you come out of it the other side, you're going to come out of it version 2.0, that stronger person, because you've learned from your experiences. So what I'm having to do is when these memories are coming up, and I don't know about everybody else, but these energies that have been around us just recently have been absolutely crazy. We're going up like worlds of energy. The energy for me is just like way beyond anything that I can comprehend as a normal earthbound guy. And I'm just going, right, I thought that was longer. I've not thought about that for 30, 40 years, but it's come up in its raw ugliness and I've had to deal with it. So I turn around and I go, right, thank you to the teacher for bringing that experience into me because I've now learned from it. Thank you to the teacher for showing me the right way of doing that because I've connected in with that person. That was good. Thank you to everybody that's ever contributed something towards my life, good, bad, or indifferent, because I've sorted through the Amazon boxes. I've unwrapped them all. And there's a big pile of cardboard. There's a big pile of plastic. There's a big pile of stuff there that's really good for me. And there's a big pile of crap that's going to go in the bin. So it's thanking all teachers for every experience, because once you can detach from the feelings, you're halfway there. You know, so it's constant evolution and constant learning. Yeah, I agree with you, Anna. I think my life is dedicated to calming down so that when I sit with clients and sit with people, I'm a storyteller. What I'm learning to do is embrace what I truly am. I've spent so many years of my life trying to drown out that quirky self, compromise my integrity by being that lesser person. Now I just think, and we're not allowed to swear, so I just think, F it now. I'm just going to give what I give. If people don't like that, they've got a choice. You know, I'm not inviting masses of people to come and stay around my house and be my flock. So you've got the off button in life, haven't you? You know, you've got that disconnect with people. But just look at situations where if it's not suiting you, do not get into fights and arguments with people. Learn how to cut cords of energy around them. And that includes family. Because like you were saying earlier on, unfortunately, we can't choose a family. So there's sometimes where family elements or close friends that we've been to are attachments. They are in our inner circle. But what we can do is mitigate when we recognize that somebody comes around and they're an energy vampire or somebody drains the life out of you. Right. Be prepared when they come round. If that's what they've always done, that's what they will continue to do until they're ready to make the changes. So now when I deal with people, cut through the cord. Right? If I love you, I love you. If you're a pain in the arse, I'm going to take a step back because I find you exhausting. I'm not going to tell you that because that might flatten your day a little bit. But just be mindful, I'm there as an empath, realizing how impactful energy is. And I'm only part way through learning. I ain't even been doing this. This will make you feel old, I know. But my spiritual work is 7 years now, just coming up. And you're what, 3 times longer than that?
I've been studying. I don't know if my spiritual work has been, 35 years, but yeah, I need to roll my sleeves up of late and get to work on some things. I got to do some shadow work. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. I'm sure like my production readings are going to get really dark when I do that, but it'll be interesting. I actually did start doing some conspiracy theory stuff over the weekend. So you'll be seeing that this week. But I did want, and I'm sorry that I'm going to cut us short, but I seriously, like, I'm in pain just sitting here. I wanted to plug our new channel. So you guys have seen, we had the Psychic News Universe. Well, we actually created its own channel. It is the Psychic News Report. It's hosted by Rob Akampora, a good friend of mine. It includes TD in the comments here, Rick and I, and Thor Sandalwood, and also Deborah Schoen, we were branding her as Florida Tarot Apprentice, but we're taking that apprentice off her, and we're going to give her full marks, full-fledged tarot reader, super talented. So we're going to be weekly on Thursdays, and we're going to bring you lots of new content. Hopefully, we're going to have some different shows on the channel, not just the weekly news report on Thursday. So it should be really, really cool. And as always, my wonderful colleague here, Mr. Rick Paul, you can contact him at rickpaul007 at gmail.com if you would like to get readings. He's also out and about on lots of public. You do a lot of public workshops and things like that. Like, I'm super jealous. I have to get into the circuit out here. For me, you can find me at fortunecookies tarot.com. You can also go to my Calendly scheduler. There's links in the description of this video for both Rick and I. You can get to both of us that way if you'd like to get readings with us. So Rick, we're at the end of our 6 weeks, but I think I foresee us continuing this on Mondays.
Happy to do it. This is a good thing about being me. I'm not a star. I'm a realist. I mean, the weekend was just absolutely incredible, and a lot of readings, a lot of different people, a lot of different energies, and spirit are showing me some fantastic stuff, and I'm just along for the ride. I feel fabulously privileged to be part of this new thing. I don't know what I'm going to bring, but it's like with anything, I just turn up, cup of tea and a good attitude, and we see where we go from it.
I'll drum up some new stuff that we can talk about, but I think forgiveness is going to be one that we revisit often, because I think it's the hardest thing for us to do, forgive others and forgive ourselves. So I do think that's going to be some fun. And since I'm going into some shadow work, I think we'll have some fun here. We'll have a good time.
So can you guys all send out some healing for Annabelle there to help with that shoulder? Because I know that.
Thank you.
Difficult is because I'm sat here with back pain that you're working through, burdens and not being able to reach out. I am working through instability and not feeling fully supported in things. So it's one of those strange things. Always remember that. Well, it's my opinion, actually, not always remember. It's my opinion that if you've got pains, there's usually an emotional link to it. So start to look out, and maybe forgiveness is the answer to the start of the healing process for you. So anything that you've not done, well, you've not done it. Find that place of acceptance. Anything that you need to do, schedule time out for yourself to make sure that that's done. But please send all of that healing across to Annabelle. She does some fantastic work and takes very little credit for what she does.
Oh, thank you.
And
I hope that you feel supported by me, because I think the world of you. I think what you're doing is amazing, and I just want to throw all the ingredients in the pot and help our people kick their week off well. So I'm going to try and restart my week over the next hour and a half with a heating pad and some Advil and just another cup of tea, I think. So until next week, we'll be back here, same Monday. Healing energy to you too, my friend. And we'll come up with some new stuff. We'll talk about some new stuff this next week. All right. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, go over, subscribe, and share the Psychic News Report. We've got 69 subscribers right now and just the one video up, but we really want to migrate a lot of our followers over to that, just so that we can start putting out more content, start doing more things through there. In the meantime, we're going to be launching through Rick and I. We'll do it through our platforms as well on Thursday. So we'll have the Psychic News Report on Thursday this week. All right, everybody. Have a great day.
Take care, guys. Thank you.